Welcome to the evening show with Jackie Brambles. This is the home of great conversations with your favourite living legends of the 70s, 80s and 90s. And tonight, they don't get much more legendary than the frontman of the band that has had over 60 hit records across more than 50 years and still rocking all over the world. He's just completed a big tour with Status Quo. Rumours are it could be their last. We'll have to inquire. And he's just announced a 3-month solo tour of the UK, kicking off in April. What a delight to welcome Francis Rossi to the Great Conversation. How you doing, Francis?
I'm just pleased to hear you're still doing it. I was thought, wow, I haven't heard from you for a while. So that's grand.
Yeah, very, very happy to be here and talking with you. And you're about to do it all over again. This massive tour that you've got planned for next year, it's pretty phenomenal.
Well, I was hoping for 100 shows. We did 100 the other year, and it's not as stressful or as taxing as the one I just did with Status Quo. So I think one of the reasons I want to do more of these is because it is less taxing, and there is a certain amount of enjoyment that I don't get from the other gig, whether it's because I can waffle, I can drift into areas that may be embarrassing or something, and I don't have the guys standing around waiting thinking, will you get on with it routine? So I even if it's a novelty to me, then Status Quo has been a novelty to me for a long time, so I can probably outlive myself, as it were. If I can get another 5 or 6 years out of it, it'd be fantastic. But I'll be saying that when I'm 80, don't worry.
Let's clarify for Status Quo fans. You have just finished your 2024 tour with the band. And then this next tour in 2025 is sort of a solo one. It's an evening of Francis Rossi's songs from the Status Quo songbook and more.
Yes.
So does that mean that sort of Status Quo, do you think, they're going to get to have a little bit of a rest for a while and you're going out on your own to do this?
I'd said before that I can't see us going again because I'm going to do 25 and I hope to do something in 26, which we're talking about Europe and such.
Right.
And because there's something about it, as I said, it feels new and maybe it's a novelty to me. So it's kind of going somewhere.
Yeah.
And it's not putting Status Quo down, but when people talk to where do you think we can go next? Whatever we do, you kind of treat it. It's great. We did a really great summer, great responses, great crowds. But it doesn't next year we could draw a few more routes in. So some of that is going on with me. So I said, I can't see that we will go again.
Yeah.
And I said it that way rather than say it's the last tour to draw more tickets, because I think that sucks. It's a bad thing to do. And it's been done with us once or twice before.
Yeah.
I don't want to say I won't do one in case...
Because you never know.
In 27, I'll be 78. That's ridiculous, isn't it? And people said to me, well, the Stones still do it, their energy and stuff. And I said, well, no, Mick Jagger still does the energy stuff. So, and he's fitter than I am, much fitter than I am, and more diligent with his regime, with his training and whatever else. And I've had to be that way for some years, to a point of bore the pants off people. And then I get very obsessive with the band and very obsessive with the work and with the eating. And I've got kind of addicted to that. So I hope to go on and do this for a while. Should I need to do another Status Quo tour, then it will happen. But it's very unlikely, I think. I have to be honest.
Straight from the horse's mouth, folks. And whilst there may be little chance of seeing the Quo perform live again, thankfully, Francis, we will always have a little margarita time to kick back and enjoy the tunes.
Yeah.
Margarita Time got to number 3 for Status Quo in 1983. Frontman Francis Rossi is our special guest on The Great Conversation. So let's talk about evolving into a solo artist. What do you like about this very different way of approaching things then, when it's that sort of more intimate evening with you? And as you said, you intersperse that with storytelling, which you are very gifted at, and it comes very naturally to you. I know there are some musicians who struggle to connect with their audience or are just shy and they don't want to do anything but, the music, but that's not the case with you.
And one of the things I found, if I was trying to take Status Quo into 300, 600, 1,200 seaters, there's a certain shame in that, because the band have been in the band since I was a child, since I was a young teenager, and tried to build, and bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
And if I go into those, it's kind of, it's shameful kind of. But if I take myself in there, There is nothing to shame. I'm not shaming the name of status quo and so on. And as I said, if it is a novelty, I don't know. I love to see the audience. I can smell the audience. I can hear them shifting about. I can hear and feel if they really like a tune. And some tunes that I've tried that you wouldn't do with status quo, you can do. And because you aren't competing against the sheer volume or the intensity of the band's music, for want of better words, you're just going against this acoustic guitar, which is where most of the songs that I've written or had to do with started. An acoustic guitar, therefore, the drum pattern is inherent in the playing. You can hear everything when you're playing an acoustic guitar, every piece that needs this embellishment, if you like. And you just sing. And I'm not saying my voice has improved, but it's better than it is when I'm trying to strain against whatever that rock thing is, that makes sure. And I just enjoy myself immensely. And I've noticed that people seem to enjoy it. And with an insecure little shaft like myself, as lots of people are in showbiz, you've only got to make them feel that they're liked or loved. They will stay there all night. And I make Ken Dodd look like a non-starter sometimes.
I suppose when you think about it, without getting too esoteric, actually, to be as part of a collaborative band for as long as you have been, where it's a democracy and everyone has a say, and it's like a dysfunctional family sometimes, and it doesn't work, or you're all having a Barney or whatever. There is something very natural about evolving as a human being to find your own voice.
So you understand this stuff. That sums it up really. Yeah, everything you said about being in the band and the idea that when you're young, it's all of us guys together. We're going to conquer the world.
Yeah. And
what happens is you grow up, and then each one of us thinks we're the main reason the band is successful, rightly or wrongly, I'm sure. And then you just grow apart. And I think I possibly wanted to do this many years ago, but I never liked the idea of I'm going solo. I think that stinks, but that's what he's doing. And it's definitely at the right time, because the person that's on stage with me is right. I feel right. I don't mind talking now. I was reluctant to speak before. I was frightened to make a fool of myself. All these things that particularly maybe young men or guys, and everything I'd become when I was younger. That real lights, I learned that. I learned that in school, and I can do that.
Yeah.
But I don't like him very much.
Yeah, well, you kind of outgrown him, maybe.
Yes, I think you do get this, don't you? Without sounding patronising, sorry, but that's. And it feels like it's going somewhere.
I like that.
Which is kind of weird for a bloke of 75, but that's what I want to go with.
Welcome back to the evening show with Jackie Brambles, where we are cozying on in for a really great conversation with the inimitable, nay, legendary frontman of Status Quo, Francis Rossi. He'll be going out on the road in April for an extensive 3-month solo tour across the UK. Going back then to the beginning, Francis, to the start of your musicianship. Did you start out as a solo artist, or were you in other bands before Status Quo?
Oh, no, I've always been in this band. It was myself, Alan Lancaster, a guy called Alan Key, and a guy called Zdzisław Władysław Antonio Jaworski, who, when we did our first gig, we quickly recruited John Coughlin. We'd seen him somewhere. And we used to wear a uniform. People have been saying today that I wear a tie a lot, and I do like a tie, and I do look at Windsor knot. And I realised that I would wear a crew neck jumper with a white shirt and the top. Yeah. And Alan Lancaster and John Cogden were brown, so we had that kind of uniform. And we were very quickly the Spectres. We thought about being the Scorpions for about 10 minutes, and for some reason that's all over Europe that we were the Scorpions, and we never were. We were the Spectres and names of that ilk. Then became Traffic, and then that was about a week, and then the manager had this brainwave, called it Traffic Jam. Great. And then they'd suggested that Rick, after Butlins and stuff, that Rick joined. And I really was very close to Rick, and I thought we were similar, you know.
Yeah.
And the idea we would sing like the Everly Brothers, which we did for a while, and we alluded earlier to how the things are close and how they change. And Rick and I were a perfect example of that, how all those things changed. But then we were rehearsing Matchstick Men, and I'd written Matchstick Men, and we used to rehearse in a basement in Lambeth Walk.
Right.
And we'd get up at the end of this thing, and this basement was a gas room, a gas showroom with cookers everywhere. And by the time we'd finished, we had to push all the cookers back against the wall because they got the floor. And then this manager, Pat Barlow, he said, we need to change the name again. And he talked about the Muhammad Alis, the queers, all sorts of names that would be contentious. And then he said, what about Quo Vadis? And he said, well, Status Quo. He said, yeah, that'll do. Just go, you know, because we were rehearsing something, and he went and we became Status Quo.
Right.
And then it all kind of snowballed from there.
Pictures of Matchstick Men, the debut hit single from 1968 for Status Quo. Francis Rossi, who has led the band for knocking on 55 years, is our special guest. And so, Francis, that was your breakthrough single.
People think you made it then. I said this to someone this morning, that we made it then. No, we got through the you know, showbiz is like, there's the face around here. I'm showing you here. The face is one side, and behind, what's behind is like, you know, those hospital gowns they give you? Well, you're all covered up at the front, and down the back, your bum's hanging out. You know that? And that's showbiz, isn't it? You see, you don't want to look back here, wherever we are.
No.
And that, to me, was, I got used to that very quickly.
And did you have a role model as such, or an inspiration, or somebody that you were aspiring to achieve the same level of success as? I mean, in terms of peers?
No, maybe only the Beatles, I think. Only the Beatles. That was the thing I thought, mistakenly thought, because I thought everybody liked the Beatles. I subsequently found they didn't. I thought that's what it would be like with us. Everybody would like us. I'd no longer argue with my first wife. I'd no longer have problems with parents, as one does. You think everything's going to be fabulous, and it isn't. And even many, many years later, we were in Sweden, Rick, and we used to take a nap, still do, in the afternoon, go to the bus wherever we were.
Yeah.
And he came to my room at the back, and he said, can I have a... And we sat talking, and he was obviously very unhappy about something. And he said, I want to spend this, I want to do that. And I said, well, tax. He said, I don't want to pay tax. Yeah, I know all these things, Rick. And I was like, sometimes I could be like his dad or his mum if he was in trouble.
Yeah.
And I think I need to go to sleep and catch my 40 minutes or whatever. And I said, look, showbiz has been a letdown for you, hasn't it? He said, yeah. And I thought, oh, it wasn't a letdown to me. It was a quick learning thing, and it still had its, whatever it was for me, it still had it, and I still like it, as we were saying about the shows I'm about to do. But I realised at that point, I think Rick was possibly following his mother's dream. She'd sold him this dream.
Yeah.
And it's just a learning curve on my part, that she'd sold him this dream, and he was more... He'd have been a great sports commentator, you know. He really knew so much about sport and who did this and who did that.
Wow.
I would bet my life on something if he said that, but nothing else in his life would I bet. But it's fascinating. I wonder how many other people get into showbiz and go, oh, I've seen the gown now, my bum's hanging out.
This is not what I thought it was.
Yeah, and I think that if people get to making it and then realise, oh, it's not what I thought it was, that must be terrible.
A Hard Day's Night from the Beatles, the band who exerted the strongest influence over a young Francis Rossi starting out with Status Quo. Before that track, we were talking about that moment that follows breaking through, as you'd always dreamed of doing as a bunch of young lads trying to make your way, when the reality of a life in show business hits you away from the smoke and mirrors, and how you felt it was kind of a disappointment, not for you, but for your co-partner in crime, Rick Parfitt. I mean, I don't think that that's rare at all. There have been a number of artists who were disenchanted enough to walk away entirely from enormous careers. Bill Wyman of the Stones, Kate Bush, and of course, John Deacon from Queen, who left after Freddie died.
I have great respect for him for doing that, and you see nothing of him. I have great respect for that man. I kind of wish I could do or could have done, and I thought I could, but I can't. I would have.
I was going to ask, did you ever seriously consider, were there any moments that were bad enough that you thought, right, I've had enough?
Oh, yeah, we got put in prison overnight once in Vienna for something, altercation at an airport and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And at that point, I thought nothing is worth that. Nothing is worth being that wrong side or perceived as that wrong side of the law, the wrong side of the system, trying to be in prison and against a system that's no pleasant place to be. But I got over that kind of quickly, and I realised only since I've been doing these tours that I need this, and I enjoyed it. I needed going out with Status Quo this summer after year 2022, which was disastrous being out there, and it was a financial disaster and so on. I needed to be in the band to improve. And I figure we did this time. So that's, again, going back to that, I think probably am going to leave it, and it would be a good time to leave it on a high for us. We were very, very good this year, I feel. And but I still, as I said to you, insecure little show-off, really.
I think that could describe most of people in show business.
Yeah, but it is, I've got this show-off in me, but it's something very insecure. You can really easily throw me easily.
Yeah.
If I tell you how easy that's to do, people will do it in the audience. They can do it very, very easily. It doesn't take very much. And that's probably the same with many people in showbiz, how to trip them up, because we are... If you're not that kind, I was talking to someone again this morning, then you're the other kind that thinks that they should appreciate me, I'm that good. And you do meet some people like that.
You do.
And they are complete a-holes. They're just not very nice human beings, whichever way. You see what I mean?
Welcome back to the evening show with Jackie Brambles, where we are indulging in a great conversation with Status Quo frontman Francis Rossi. So before the break, we were talking, Francis, about the realities of show business that can be a bit of a shocker for artists after they've first broken through. Because, of course, we're all sold that fantasy of being rich and famous as kids, sitting on the floor in front of the telly on a Thursday night watching Top of the Pops. Can you give us an example of that reality?
One of the things that comes to mind, I was doing Wembley Stadium. We were being interviewed, Rick and I think it was a Diana concert or some such. And she said, so what's on your rider? And I looked at her kind of fused, and you could see she was thinking, don't panic on it. And I said, well, whatever we want. I don't understand you. And there's this, one of the myths in the showbiz is that there's this rider that Mr. Nobody pays for.
Right.
No, whatever any of us want, it gets put on our rider. And somewhere it comes out of the cake. There isn't some guy says, oh, they want so much, I better give it to them. No, you buy it.
Yeah.
And so there are myths like that I don't like in showbiz, or that everybody in showbiz gets along. I said in something earlier today that lots of us get along as long as we're top of the bill. You get, when we were doing Live Aid, the idea of who was going to go on first in the end, nobody wanted to go on before. I'm bigger than he is. She's got, I'm not going on. That goes on. And people don't realise that. Perhaps they shouldn't know that. I don't know. But I'm the big mouth currently who's saying it.
Well, I'm glad you're so open and talking about it, because I certainly want to get into that Live Aid chat. It was such a momentous day, and you and Status Quo were tasked with being the opening act. Taken all over the world by Status Quo, with our special guest Francis Rossi up front and rocking out with the very first song performed at Live Aid in 1985. And I mean, it was the biggest ask of all time in terms of live gigs. That gig to be the first to go on. Tell us, behind the scenes, were you quite happy to do that? Did you say stick us anywhere, or was there,
No, what I just said, I mean, Bob was asking some upstart at the time, seemed to me, this new band was asking Rick and I, who were in Phonogram, our record company at the time, do you want to do something gig? And I said, who the hell are you anyway? I'm just looking at this guy, what are you talking about? And he's talking about third world famine, and my generation had heard about third world famine. It seems that a generation only just heard something. Have you seen this on television? What are you talking about? Will you do this gig? Well, no thanks. And a few weeks later, the same question. And I said, well, no. He said, look, if one of the older bands commits, they will do it.
Right.
And I said, look, we're not getting on along. He said, it doesn't matter what you sound like. So we agreed to do it. And so he'd said similar things to many people It's like they threw loads of stuff against the wall and some of it stuck.
Yeah.
Once all that was agreed, then the real thing hits the fan because everybody's going to be top of the bill. And it's that argument. The further up one the bill gets, the more the arguments get. And I'd asked our manager at the time, Colin Johnson, has anything been sorted yet? Who's on when? Even we were part of that. I'm not going on. So then I said to Rick, well, we'll go on first, won't we? He said, yeah, we can get out of there by 12:15. We thought it'll be home finished. Didn't realise that the day was going to be so big and such an event. And so we agreed to go on first. Though I still bet there was a load of jockeying after that event.
Yeah.
Because nobody wanted to be second then, did they? And plus, when we finished, everybody was thinking, should have gone on first. The amount of media that we hit was phenomenal. But none of us thought that was going to happen. It was just going to be a gig.
And you, listen, let's not be modest. You absolutely blew the roof off the place. It was an astonishing opening act, you know, because sometimes these things you kind of get lumbered into, but you just absolutely exploded onto that stage, set the bar very high, and everybody else's job that day was to make sure they got there.
Well, I think maybe that's if things work out as they should, that's part of it. Because as you say, sometimes you start with this sort of dribble. And then people, which is what they did in the end, they watched the front and then they started to walk away for a while until they realised whomever was on. So perhaps it did work out right, you know. But I remember walking off and everybody standing with that showbiz grin and they're clapping gently, you know that. And you could see grinning through their teeth. Should have gone on first, shouldn't we? And because we didn't realise that at the time, some people had albums come out ready for the show. We had no idea that was going to be like that.
Yeah.
First idea that it was important was when we walked on, and I looked at Rick and he looked at me, and we saw so many people down the front, so much media. But you still just got on and did it and got off.
Yeah.
It's what you kind of do in those shows. Get on, do your thing, and get off.
Well, you did it beautifully. Let's play another performance from that legendary event. We talked about John Deacon of Queen earlier, and I think we can safely say that if Status Quo exploded onto that Wembley stage to open the day, it was Queen who took it to a raging inferno. Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen from Live Aid. Oh, Francis, we're nearly out of time, but before I let you go, I need to task you with choosing the final track of this Francis Rossi Great Conversation Hour. It's impossible, I know, to ask for your favourite song. That'd be bonkers. But could you come up with a particular song that you find yourself returning to often whenever a particular mood strikes?
So you do understand that, because everybody says your favourite song of all time. You just say that's impossible, and it is impossible.
Yeah, that's insane.
It would definitely be a Jeff Lynne or an ELO track. And recently I heard a track from an album called Alone in the Universe, and it's called All My Life. He has such a knack. He could have his way with me anytime he likes. And I've known him since I was about 16. And I don't know anybody else on the planet that I admire quite as much as mine. You mustn't let him hear I've said this, though.
Word may get back to him. I'm sure he'll be over the moon, because he's probably an insecure little show-off too.
I think he is. In fact, I know he is, yes.
All My Life by ELO, tonight's final track of the Great Conversation Hour, as chosen by our very special guest, Francis Rossi, who earlier this summer wrapped up what, as he said here tonight, could possibly have been the last Status Quo tour, and is now getting ready for an extensive UK tour, kicking off in April as a solo artist, going out with an acoustic guitar to sing songs from the Status Quo songbook and more. And I know there'll be lots of storytelling too, something that you're so enthused about. And what a lovely thing to have this new project with growth potential to get excited about at this stage of the game.
Yeah, it is. It's great to feel that way. And again, I keep harping on the fact that I'm 75, because when we were 25, even when I was 45, you just can't envisage this age or what it feels like. And most people of my age in this industry, in music, seem to deny the fact that they wake in the morning and everything hurts, or that they are feeling, or they may have a prostate problem or a hernia problem or a sugar problem. Any of these things, we tend to pretend they don't exist.
Yeah.
And I don't really want to do that. I'd like to be a little more honest with the audience, and with so many things that I've gone along with in our lives about showbiz, and I'm sure I don't want to make it and ruin it entirely for people because it is a fantasy. But I am so happy doing it that I've got a feeling I might not make the end of the day sometimes. He's going to keel over on the way home or get killed on a bus or something, you know.
Francis, thank you so much for taking the time and sharing so openly. Your audiences are in for a treat with some amazing music and cracking conversation.
Thank you. I hope to see you there. It's very nice talking to you too.
Cheers, Francis. All the best.
Bye, my love.
Francis Rossi, Renaissance man, and what a great conversationalist.